A very good morning to you and welcome to another week. Of course, it's a Monday and we are live here on Rise and Shine this morning. I am super delighted to be here. And of course, I welcome everybody that will be linking up with us today on Rise and Shine and on Spectrum Television. My name is Janice Cobham. Thank you so much for being part of.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwa Ibom State. It's a beautiful day to rise and shine and a brand new week to head out again. My name is Uyai Anyekan and I am thankful to be alive to do this again with you this week. Please follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find at spectrumtv.ng. Let's drive the conversation, let's make contribution. Our phone lines will also be displayed in the course of the program this morning. Feel free to call in or send us WhatsApp and text messages, and we'll be glad to take those contributions this morning. Good morning once again, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Good morning, Janice.
Good morning, Nuya.
How was the weekend?
A weekend with supplies, when you know that supplies are done from the house and all of that. And what else? I think basically just went through the whole paparazzi that happened during the weekend from the AMVCA was one thing that got a lot of us glued to our TV screens, and all of the fashion statements. I know that some people have actually drawn conversations from the red carpet moment. Some things we'll see on the UK runway. We're beginning to see Nigerians come up with their A game when it comes to fashion and creativity and all of that. So we saw very beautiful pieces during the weekend. Let's not even talk about the awards and everything, but more like congratulations to all those that clinched an award. Would say that hard work is paying. A lot of work is being put into the movie industry, and we think that going forward it will get better than it is as we speak.
It was a beautiful array of colors, excitement for the awardees who won out of the nominations that we made available. And just like we're having a conversation over the weekend, MVCAs is an opportunity to give back to actors, actresses, producers, and directors, all the likes who have been given into the industry. A couple of movies that are really close to the hearts of people won the awards. The likes of Anik Lapo. I also know that Jade, the Subaru's movie, won the awards, because something else that we notice in the industry right now is that we have a lot of quote and unquote newbies, new people, the saddle, movies, producers, directors, scriptwriters, and the like. So it was good to see. And I won't forget to mention also that there were some awards that did not quite,
sit well with a lot of Nigerians.
Yes. In the words of Nigerians, people will literally say some INEX spirits caught up with certain awards, during the AMVCS. But then it was good overall.
I think, again, when you talk about giving awards and the recipients of the awards and all of that, so when you look at some of especially the very controversial award right now on the space of the social media, which is that of Best Actress, going to Anosa Sigudaro and leaving the likes of Nsikpe aside, I think the organizers have a way of
because it's more like, okay, if you thought Nsekpe should have won it, then
why didn't you vote? It's just like when they're saying, oh, the best dressed, that the dress of the best dress wasn't dressing at all.
It wasn't dressing.
It wasn't dressing. But again, it was in the open glare of everybody, right? Go there and just double click. End of the day, who had the most likes? It was who won the best dress and all of that. So again, looking from the outside, you might think that dress wasn't giving, but it's just like in your last jacket, right? He won the best dressed male, and at some point netizens were like, oh, what did Eniola actually wear? It wasn't giving. It wasn't supposed to win the best dress. But again, they did a video, like a close-up video of that particular jacket that Eniola wore, and you could see the detailing of that pieces. You could see that real work went into it. So most times, we judging from what we are seeing on social media might not be really what is. Had to go click on the like button for that particular dress and all of that. So that's just where we have ourselves. But overall, The weekend was quite full of glitz and glams and lots of awards. Not forgetting also that the Bon Awards was conducted, I think on Friday. It was on Friday that we had the Bon Awards, either Friday. Yes, on Friday we had the Bon Awards. And even given from, the whole AMVCA thing, I know that one conversation that cropped up was the fact that we need to begin to identify and because
Wow.
on-air personalities are also creatives as well.
Oh, that's true. That would be awesome.
Yeah,
I
that
like, I
that
like,
would definitely
I
be
really like the
awesome.
sound of that.
Yes.
Let's see it become, gets live. Maybe like next year's AMVCAs, where we have a category where broadcasters are
I
recognized.
recognize,
That would be
yes.
really dope. That
Okay,
really
so
dope.
many thanks for joining us once again, and good morning. Of course, you know that on Rise and Shine we get to give you very topical conversations, and this morning we are going to be starting with our flash stories. Okay, and on our flash news this morning, ahead of the May 29 inauguration, Tinubu returns to Nigeria from overseas trip. And we see President-elect Bola Tinubu back in the country following a 10-day trip to some European countries. On the plane with him was the incoming First Lady, Remi. They were received at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport by Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima, Senate President Ahmed Lawan, House of Representatives Deputy Speaker Idris Wase, Kano State Governor Abdullahi Ganzoje and Honorable James Abiodun Falake, among others. On the plane with him was also the incoming First Lady Remi Tinubu. They were received at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport by all of those people that were there to receive them. And I can also see the lobbying to
Oh yeah,
become the Senate
you
President
need
of
to
the
stay
Federal
consistent with
Republic
the
of
face of the
Nigeria.
president,
Of
like
course,
yeah.
yes. But we see that Tinubu has come back, and in a couple of days from today, today is actually the
That's barely
22nd.
7 days.
So barely 7 days from today, there's going to be a transition to the administration of President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So we are definitely going to be seeing a lot of preparations. I think the preparations have started already in earnest. It started last week Thursday with all of the lineup of activities and events
Yeah.
that was ruled out by boss.
To say is his desire and his plan to hit the ground running, and of course his 10-day visit to some European countries was said, his spokesperson said he needed time to concentrate on certain things without any form of distraction. And we see the president-elect return to the country at this time, and we know that like he has continued to promise, it's going to be
Work.
yeah, from the get-go. Of course he is fit, looks healthy and ready to run. And of course, I think one of the articles I was reading was, on his return with the incoming First Lady. I'm personally looking forward to a different atmosphere to the unofficial office of the First Lady, in this new
Yeah,
administration. Yes, it's an unofficial office. It's not necessarily recognized
it's
by
not
the
constitutional.
yeah, it's not recognized by the constitution. But then again, how much of an impact will this particular is going to influence her own style of being the first lady? That's something I'm personally looking
Will she
forward to.
want to be in the spotlight, or she's going to be in the background, just like we had Aisha Buhari do?
Yeah,
Or is it that for the case of Aisha Buhari, it was her husband that was
yeah.
making her a little bit
Yes,
insignificant
I
or
think it
not in
was
the
President
spotlight?
Muhammadu Buhari who played a really large role as to how seemingly quiet his wife was throughout his administration. I
Yeah.
think that was something he did. So let's see, what it's going to be. And also, there is a tendency that, going forward, it could remain like that. It just depends on the men who become president around things, but we would like to see more outspoken first ladies. I
Yeah.
think it usually helps to push her husband's narrative further to the people.
Well, anyways, just like the federal government has also pointed out, we're expecting about 65 different heads of government to fine-tune his policies and transition process and all of that. But we are happy to see that President-elect is back in the country, and of course, course, there's going to be an inauguration on May 29, which is just 7 days away from today. Fingers crossed, Nigerians are also looking forward to it. And I know that some people are also in the doubt as in if this particular inauguration would hold. But I know that the federal government has kept reassuring a lot of Nigerians that the May 29 transition and inauguration is going to take place. The military has also told Nigerians that if you foment trouble, you're going to get it hot as well. But yeah, let's quickly move to our major stories for the morning.
Big stories, big things happening. Of course, about barely 7 days for the tenure of President Muhammadu Buhari to come to a close. There's going to be a lot of eulogies flying around here and there. His voice with this, of course, with barely 7 days to the end of his tenure, the president, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, retired on Friday. Sat amid tributes from several dignitaries led by his Ghanaian counterpart, President Nana Akufo-Addo. As leaders, we all have our high and low moments, but I have no doubt that posterity will be kind to Muhammad Buhari Akufo-Addo, Buhari's life and tenure as president. Now, the two books, State of Repair, How Muhammadu Buhari Tried to Change Nigeria for Good by Anthony Goldman, and The Legacy of Muhammadu Buhari by Senator Abu Ibrahim were reviewed by the former governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, and the Deputy Vice Chancellor, University of Abuja, Professor Abubakar Abba. In his opening remarks, President Akufo-Addo eulogized Buhari for providing a model leadership for Nigeria and other miss you. West Africa, Africa, and indeed the world will miss your leadership, the leadership of a military ruler turned consummate Democrat who's extremely solicitous of Nigerian and African interests and who sought principles in all decisions he took. Of course, there seems to have also been great difference as to how things have been before time. Now, the analysis may differ from quarter to quarter, but then has he done, anything remarkably different from previous administration? The intensity of the insurgency abate? Yes, it did. Is there a possibility of totally handling terrorism in the country? That might be like a wild goose chase, actually. But then, like you would always say, when someone is deserving of honor, the person should be given. Nigeria, I think that is, something we can also just applaud him for. Let's not even forget, in the words of the president of Ghana, he said, a military ruler turned consummate Democrat. I think with that, it brings you to mind to think about the fact that transitioning may not necessarily be a very easy one to do. That sounds more like he transitioned and found a way to balance out himself without being autocratic, in his way of dispensing his duties as president. So these eulogies are welcomed and they should sit right well on the head of President Muhammadu Buhari.
Yeah, I think also that during the weekend, I also read a particular news bit where it said that, of course, more like his fact sheet will begin running from, was it yesterday now? Yes, yesterday. It will start running yesterday on different media platforms. But when we look at what the president has done in the space of 8 years, just like you said, looking at Boko Haram and a lot of insurgencies around the northern Nigeria and even southeast Nigeria as well, would see that to an extent, he was able to like nib it on the board during the campaigns and the elections. We saw less of it, but recently we've started seeing the Hydra-headed issue rear up its ugly head again. Different killings in different parts of the country, but I think the major success to the Boko Haram insurgency is the fact that northern Nigeria hoisted flags and all of that, and lots of people in being displaced and all of that. But the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari came and that was taken back as part of Nigeria and all of that. But I think looking at in totality all of the things that President Muhammadu Buhari has been able to achieve, would see that there's just a lot of legislative reforms. Recently, we saw that happen. Executive orders have also been given. And then oil and gas, yes, with the whole theft in the oil and gas sector, Nigeria not producing enough, as part of OPEC quotas, to him also trying to see how there can be the revamping of the oil sector. I think the petroleum industry bill was one of the major feats that he was able to achieve in the oil and gas sector as well. And then we look at social investment and poverty alleviation. Well, we would say that he's done great, but we have a lot of all of these social safety net programs. The N-Power is one. How was it implemented? At the end of the day, we would say that the president is not supposed to, come begin to do the implementation and all of that. He has people he works with. So if it goes wrong, we cannot blame it totally on the president. His own was to create these policies and give,
give room for them
to be implemented, and that was what he did. And then let's even look at road infrastructure and all of that. I think one major achievement that would actually give to the present administration is the fact that they've been able to take the infrastructural, take a lot of infrastructural strides in the country. So far, so good. And the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. That's another great achievement of this particular administration, and so many more. I know that corruption has been a part of what they say that his administration has been able to deal with, anti-corruption and transparency as well. But would we say that in totality or overall that he has done well in these places? I think Nigerians also have, their own stance, their own opinion, and their own perspective to the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari.
I think if you speak as Nigerians, one of the lines that the President Muhammadu Buhari administration will really be faulted will be along economic lines. It's not like there was a lot of hardship, but you cannot fault the president for not looking into infrastructural development. You cannot fault him for a lot of reforms with regards to bills and policies. And one of his card has really said most of these policies and developmental strides he has made are for the long term, not necessarily things that we could have benefited from in the 4 years or the entire 8 years, but there are things that we believe that in time to come we'll be able to look back and remember President Muhammadu Buhari for. For instance, he cited the Electoral Act. It may seem to have experienced some bump in the way because of the execution of the February 25th election on, as most Nigerian things that the president has done right in his 8-year tenure, and having African leaders come out to say we will miss you is something. Do not forget that he's also been lashed at for certain African aids that he sent out to some neighboring countries that were in one distress or the other. Yes, there were purchases of cars that would say, oh, your country is in this kind of need, but yet you are rendering that kind of help. Nigeria has always been a country that she is referred to as the giant of Africa. Yes, what the celebration at this time. So that as he goes back to Daura in the next couple of days, he will be remembered.
He'll go back to his country home in Daura.
Yeah, definitely, he'll be remembered for some good. But that's a big story, and still, I would like to say that still on the heel of many great reforms that has come on the heels of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration is the fact that today is going to be a very historic activity in Nigeria. When we hear that subsidy removal was pushed forward just to give the incoming administration a soft landing, and the conversation has been how are Nigerians going to fare with the purchase of petrol and all of the commodities. But then we see the fact that 5 African presidents are set to commission the 650,000 barrels per day capacity Dangote refinery. Now, of course, this event is going to positively transform Nigeria's oil and gas sectoral landscape. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari will today commission Dangote Petroleum Refinery and Petrochemicals, the world's largest single train refinery in Ibeju, Lekki, Lagos, alongside his counterparts from Ghana, Togo, Senegal, Niger, and Chad. Now, promoted by Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, the petroleum refinery, with a capacity to process 650,000 barrels per day, is sitting on 2,635 hectares of land located in Dangote Industries Free Zone in Ibeju, Lekki, Lagos. Now, the refinery, according to a statement by the group's media unit, will provide employment to over 100,000 persons. The coming on stream of the gigantic project is expected to mark Nigeria's exit from the League of Oil Rich Nations, but which are heavy importers of the petroleum product. That is something that Nigerians are so excited about. Now, it is expected at the historic event, apart from international dignitaries, presidents of Togo, Ghana. We also have Macky Sall, president of Niger Republic, Mohamed Bazoum, president of Chad, Mohamed Debi, and a host of other ambassadors. Of course, this is great news. 650,000 barrels per day. We've also heard NNPC say they are going to do right by the refinery to contribute. I think NNPC is to provide them with something we are going to keep, to our side of the bargain. Now, Nigeria's president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whose administration as the governor of Lagos in 2002 floated the free trade zone in Ibeju, Lekki, where the refinery is located, is expected to be at the event. Now, the commissioning of Dangote Petroleum Refinery is significant given that it is the first time that a refinery of such magnitude built by an individual is being commissioned. Yeah.
Yes,
I
like
like the way
you
they
said,
tied it back to Bola Tinubu.
it's laudable.
Yeah.
It's quite laudable. We know that one person that has, been pushing the economy of Nigeria as a private individual is the richest man in Africa. That is Aliko Dangote. And for him to come into the oil and gas sector and to bring up and put up this kind of facility, Nigerians and the whole issues and crisis that we have, when it comes to petrol and petroleum products. We see that when we see these kinds of things, it is beautiful to see that the government has been able to partner with private individuals. I think this is one conversation that we've always had, where we say that look, government should bring in private individuals to handle the petroleum sector, not also undermining the fact that yes, we might also let's be able to break the monopoly of NNPC and see how we can bring in private individuals to also have their own refineries. But I think at this point again, would we say that this would also make the government sit up or relax when it comes to making sure that our own refineries, as government-owned refineries, are working? Would it put more pressure on them to see that our refineries are working, or it will just make them relax and we have a private refinery doing the the sea for refining and then bringing back, or everything will be done here? If that is so, then it's great, because at some point we'll be having petrol at very subsidized prices. And still on the lines of the subsidy now, the subsidy issue has been great issue and challenge to the country and to the economy of the country, because when we even look at how much is being spent in subsidizing fuel, it's enough to do a lot more infrastructures in the country. But on the heels of that, I think on Friday now, it was said that the Senate actually approved that they will actually borrow the money, but keep it for the next administration to come and use and decide how they want to use it. But why go ahead with the borrowing when the next administration can also come and do the borrowing themselves? So we see that there's going to be a lot. Is either this will step up the activity or the doggedness of the federal government to want to do more in terms of building refineries to actually make the petroleum products a little bit more cheaper for Nigerians.
I think it's worthy of note that when we are telling this conversation about the refinery by Dangote. The fact being able to float the refinery in Nigeria, policies of a country to a very large extent determine the kinds of developments that you see within the country. The impact that we expect out of this refinery is something that would have to measure in time. Like you were asking a really big question, how is this going to boost or production? Because imagine that NNPCL on the side is maximizing its production quota as given by OPEC, and then the Dangote refinery is also keeping up with its promise of 650,000 barrels per day. Then Nigeria will be gradually moving out of the conversation of a third world country, more like an underdeveloped country with regards to oil and gas. We're also looking at the fact that we can begin to see the fact that other African nations can also come to Nigeria to refine their crude. So we're talking about a lot of good coming to Nigeria by the reason of this singular action by Aliko Dangote. Yeah. And this is the place where we say thank you. Definitely. For giving back to your country. He has made his billions out of other businesses that he's done in Nigeria, and he's also thought it wise to wade into a sector of his country that has been ridden by a lot of backwardness. Yes. This is good.
And waste. And
a lot of waste, and you know that
and vandalization of pipelines and all of that. So
the touch of the private sector in anything is usually different. So we are looking forward to how this is going to affect the oil and gas sector in Nigeria. Do we expect that more to build another refinery in the next maybe 3-4 years? Then Nigeria will be making a lot of progress. Because all of that money spent on subsidy, all of that money used in exporting crude to refine it and buy it back into the country would will be working favorably
to something different.
A lot. And you have a lot of young Nigerians putting their hands to the saddle. There'll be jobs for us to do.
Exactly. I wanted to come to that point where, because with that kind of facility that we see there, trust me, is also going to employ a whole lot of people.
They're looking at 100,000 individuals.
Or young, yes, individuals working there and all of that. So it takes off the burden of unemployment from government and, and all of that. So it's a great development. And we really say kudos to, Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, for doing this for Nigeria.
Profit-oriented. We do hope that the prices of fuel or these crude commodities will be affordable also, especially that there's a tendency to think once it's handled by a private individual it's going to be quite pricey.
Expensive.
Yeah, so we do hope that there are regulations.
That's where the breaking of monopoly comes in. When once monopoly is broken, you see that I have an opportunity to choose between A or B.
Exactly.
If A is not working for me, I definitely go for B. So it's actually on its own, it tries to regulate prices.
Yeah. Well, great one there. And this is like a lot of congratulations to Nigeria and Nigerians today. Our president is being congratulated. Our refinery is coming to life in the country today. Imagine what it's going to feel like, nostalgic. But we have so much more conversations that we want to bring you this morning. But we need to head straight down to the newspaper desk where Mary Joseph is on standby when we return.
of state and government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates.
This is the Lagos, Nigeria today as we want to report for the last 6 seconds to counting.
A very good morning to you and welcome to your morning news brief on Spectrum. Live from Uyo, I am Mary Joseph. Said that over 70% of food exports from Nigeria are rejected abroad. Adeyeye, who made this known during the official opening of the new NAFDAC complex for the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, NACO, in Lagos, said the incident of the rejection of food export from Nigeria in some European countries and the United States of America will soon be a thing of the past if collaboration between the agency and other government agencies at the port is strengthened. Meanwhile, the Minister of Interior, Rauf Eregbeshola, has advised Nigerians seeking to obtain service passport front desk office in Auchi, Edo State, said the NIS was working towards reducing the waiting time for passport data capturing to 3 days. Away from that, as the Dangote refinery begins operation today, the 650,000 barrels per day oil processing facility has been designed to produce crude oil grades from 3 continents of Africa, Asia, and America. It was also gathered that the refinery would deliver a surplus of about 38 million liters of petrol, diesel, kerosene, and aviation fuel for Nigeria daily. Hence, it would meet the 100% fuel supply requirements of the country. We head now to health, where the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors has directed its members to resume work today, Monday, May 22nd, following a 5-day nationwide warning strike embarked upon by its members. NARD, after its 3-hour extraordinary National Executive Council meeting, however, said it would review federal government's commitment to resolving the issues in the next 2 weeks. We head now to the foreign scene, where President Joe Biden and top Republican Kevin McCarthy have spoken on the phone in a change of tone in stalled talks on lifting the U.S. debt ceiling. Mr. Biden told reporters that the call went well and two would talk again after he arrives back at the White House from the G7 summit in Japan. The two sides remain at odds over budget cuts demanded by the Republicans as a condition for the raising of the ceiling. And finally, in sports, a Guillermo Dipeno own goal and Samson Lawal's winner game at the Under-20 World Cup at the Estadio Malvinas Argentinas in Mendoza. Nigeria, 2-time finalists and the Under-20 World Cup, are determined to make history and clinch their maiden title, but London Versus side struggled to beat the Caribbeans in their first game of the tournament. We'll have details of the stories and more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine, where we have Janice and Uyai on standby. Do have a wonderful morning.
As of state and government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates.
This is the Lagos, Nigeria today as we want to report for the last 6 seconds to counting.
Of course, to remind you, the president-elect is back. Of course, to remind you, the president-elect is back in the country ahead of the May 29 inauguration and transition of government from President Muhammadu Buhari, of course, to the next. And as part of our major stories, we looked at the fact that Africans will miss Buhari's leadership, according to Ghanaian President uh, Akufo-Addo. He says that with all of the many impacts that President Muhammadu Buhari has had, not just in Nigeria, but also in Africa, that the world is actually going to miss his style of leadership as well. And then away from that now, we also told you that today President Buhari is set to commission the Dangote Petroleum refinery, and that refinery is going to be producing 850,000 barrel per day of petroleum products. Kudos to Africa's richest man, Nana Aliko Dangote, and also congratulations to Nigeria for having this one. I actually gave the statistics of how many people are going to be employed in that particular refinery, which means that we are going to be solving unemployment issues on that angle. But quick one now, let's find out what the papers have to say this morning on the front pages, and that's how we go to Daily Spotlight.
Of course, on Daily Spotlight
Daily
this morning,
Spotlight. Yeah, let's look at what the papers have for us today. And let's start with the Sun, Daily Sun now. Let's find out what Daily Sun is saying. Quite sad stories on the front page of Daily Sun as the big story actually. It says latest plateau attacks, church alleges killing of 130, razes of 1,000 houses. And the writer here says 22 worship centers, also 22 villages burnt. You can find details of that story on page 4. We also have tension as gunmen kill 15 in Kaduna, Benue, vigilante in Delta. You have that story on page 5. US-based doctor files motion to delay Tinubu's inauguration. You have that on page 6. And moving forward, federal government sacks Fan MD, appoints Mohammed new CEO. The writer says major shakeup looms across aviation agencies. You have that story on page 25. Failed Abuja CCTV project. Court orders federal government to account for $460 million Chinese loan. You have that story on page 5. And moving ahead, Northern Group asked EFCC chair to go over corrupt allegations. And the writer here says, we won't bandy, more like banter words. We won't banter words with Matawali, says Commission. That story can be found on page 4. And that's all that we have on the front page of Daily Sun.
Moving on from Daily Sun, let's look at the Nation newspaper this morning. And the very big story there says Shetima Tinubu will run an all-inclusive administration. Why Southeast should support incoming government by Umahi. UK to ban foreign students from relocating with families. We also have here explain your source of wealth. El Rufai tells predecessors. Page 8 is where you can find that story. Interest rates likely to go up again as MPC meets. Page 5. Sack fever grips aviation workers after fan shakeup. Page 6 is where you can find the story. Afe Babalola urges incoming government to seek debt forgiveness. Okay, that's a new twist. We also see here Buhari, 5 African presidents to inaugurate Dangote refinery. Um, why President-elect met with Kwankwaso by Jibrin. We also have here terrorist takeover Kainji National Park. Woman held with gun, page 38. And that's all we have on the front page of the Nation.
Our very next paper this morning is the Punch newspaper. The big story on the Punch newspaper says Dangote refinery opens today, eyes crude oil from 3 continents. And the writer here says Buhari, Tinubu, African leaders, others to attend luncheon. Refinery to meet daily fuel consumption creates 100,000 jobs. And another story here says Presidential Pool Tribunal parties disagree as court rules on live broadcast today. Okay, the power sector still a quagmire. That's a report there. NDLEA arrests Baron in Lagos hotel over 567 million naira seized drugs. And we also have accounts for $460 million CCTV loan court orders federal government. I think this is very important. Moving forward, don't judge me based on performance, as Minister says Akpabio. Okay, big conversations there. But let's move forward to our next paper. Those are all the stories that we have on the front page this morning of the Punch.
Okay, looking at the front page of this day newspaper this morning, says 7 African presidents join Buhari to open Dangote refinery, continent game changer. Absolutely. 650,000 barrels per day facility to alter international energy landscape and petrol smuggling in Nigeria. Tinubu, Emefiele, governors, ministers, top business leaders to witness a Porch event. Refinery, a significant achievement for Africa, Adeleke declares. Oroma, Afrimax Bank, proud as its largest financier. Okay. Rewan refinery will strengthen Nigeria's macroeconomic stability. We also have here Waboti, over $50 billion oil industry project unveiled at Oil Gas Fair. Federal government, Nigeria's oil sector still dominated by foreigners despite government's efforts. NEPL targets 60 additional oil wells by 2024. Okay, we also have here See Monday interview with IGP Usman Baba on pages 46 to 48. I'm sure they're very important information that you'd like to check in there. We also see here there's a picture story there of the Dangote refinery. Atiku, disunity feeds hate, which in turn feeds conflict. Page 57 is where you can find that particular story. And Onaikon rather backs call for live broadcast of presidential tribunal proceedings. Of course, we are expecting the final verdict on that particular move today. And that's what we have on the front page of this day newspaper.
Okay, I think you'd have to take the Vanguard, because those are just all of the papers that we have.
Okay, now looking at the front page of the Vanguard, what's the big story there? Let's see, let's see. Okay. Ooh.
Okay, let's take the Nigerian Tribune now. Still on the Dangote refinery, of course, the big story on Tribune says history, hope as Dangote refinery begins operations. I think that Nigerians are having a whole lot of hope, and this is more like a hope of life, for the oil and gas industry, and of course for job opportunities as well, creation of jobs. But let's look for stories that are not also on all the papers, like news stories. This one says IPIE traces global crisis to misinformation, and the writer says to hold Nobel Prize summit in Washington May 24. Onyena Icon backs call for live coverage of election tribunal. Cardinal Onyena Icon on that particular one there. Seek debt forgiveness to succeed as president. Affair cancels Tinubu's debt forgiveness, more like debt cancellation. I think that will be it. Yes, when we talk about debt forgiveness, because there are just a whole lot waiting for the incoming government, to come and service and all of that.
About 3 trillion naira.
Exactly. Strike uproar as federal government exempts 204 Unizik lecturers from no work, no pay rule. Okay. 10th rep leadership G7 great minority adopts consensus candidate for speaker. Okay. The writer says, say Tinubu's presence during inaugurations won't stop us. G5 insists on meeting Tinubu. Okay, those are some of the stories there. Failed Abuja CCTV, great conversation. Court is asking that the Buhari government gives account of the $460 million Chinese loan. I'm sure a lot of Nigerians want to know what that money was actually used for if the CCTV cameras were not installed at the end of the day. UK to ban Nigerian students, others from moving family to Britain, and NDLEA intercepts UK-bound meth worth 500 million naira in Lagos. And those are all the stories that we have here on the front page of Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, let's look at the Vanguard. Manufacturers in dire straits as unsold goods hit 470 billion naira. Man points at low purchasing power, cash crunch. As 2023 FPM's tax hike threatens sector survival, FMCGs reports up to 60% sales drop. We also have here why we went into the oil business by Aliko Dangote. I believe that's a must read for today, page 10 and 11. Of course, Dangote refinery commissioning. We also see here global misinformation, IPIE to the rescue, page 31. CCTV project account for $460 million Chinese loan. Court orders federal government. Insecurity gave me sleepless nights. Ex-President Jonathan. UK to ban Nigerian students from bringing in family. Okay. We also have here now the challenge of hope. There's a picture story there by we have the Tinubu's inheritance. Okay. 1999 Constitution states reduced to pathetic beggars, says Akeredolu, page 5. Buhari, 5 presidents to commission Dangote refinery today, of course. Then in sports here we have NPFL, Bendel Insurance and regular season unbeaten. And that's all the stories that we have on the front page of the Vanguard.
Quite interesting stories, I must say. And yes, I think one of them is this issue, this order by the court for the federal government under the Buhari administration to give account of the 406 million naira now. Is it
$460 million?
$460 million monies that were supposed to be used for closed circuit TV cameras. And in Abuja, I remember that when this conversation cropped up, it was the Minister for Finance, that actually came up with those conversation, and it was more like a welcome development to checkmate the spate of insecurity around the Federal Capital Territory. But hearing that the closed circuit cameras were not installed and the monies is nowhere to be found is something that calls for a lot of concerns. But I love the fact that Serap is suing the federal government for this, and Justice Nwite is also on the part of Serap that accountability must be given to these particular monies what was that money used for? Can the federal government come out and tell Nigerians this is why we have not, done the closed circuit TV cameras, why we have not installed them? This is what is keeping us. Have we started? Have we not started? Are they also going to be pushing it to the next administration of President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu, or what exactly? Because these are questions, and these questions actually need answers. Because just like we were talking about last week, when we say that some kinds of disbursements, last-minute disbursements, are more like conduit pipes, to use in siphoning funds. Let us give accountability even of the ones that they had disbursed and the contracts have not, seen the light of the day, has not been executed. Because it is one thing to disburse these funds, it is yet another thing to make sure that we follow through the process to make sure that yes, we have actually accomplished, the projects, or completed the projects that the funds were released for. So many monies that we've seen on the papers, in recent times, that have not been given accounted, have not been accounted for. They have not executed the projects at which it was meant for, and these monies have not also been accounted for. So I think that Serap asking the federal government to give this kinds of accountability is the right thing to do.
Still speaking on economic lines and money related issues, we are seeing the fact that manufacturers are in dire straits as unsold goods within the country hit 470 billion naira. That's a lot of sitting products in the country. And when we are also talking production, we are talking timeline to how long they can be, their
shelf lives.
Yeah, and if you say that alone is standing at 470 billion, that is a lot of money. And of course, reasons have been given. The cash crunch is part of the excuses I was given, and then we're also looking at the fact that there's been a lot of tax hike and forex, foreign interest hike in recent times by the Central Bank of Nigeria, and this has absolutely affected business. But you can only imagine what the manufacturers are going through if they have their money trapped to that tune in the country. It means that business has really fallen, and we're seeing that purchasing power, sales power has dropped by about 60%. That leaves them with just 40% to circulate and stay in business. That's a lot.
That's really a lot, because when we even talk about manufacturing, we are also looking at small and medium scale enterprises, which is more like the backbone of every economy. So if that is not moving, definitely is going to have a ripple effect on the economy. And we are also seeing you spoke about the shelf life of these products. If we are saying that at the end of the day the goods are not sold, then we are going to be seeing a lot of waste on the hands of manufacturers. And don't forget too, there's been like talks on going on strike because of some kind of taxes that have been imposed on manufacturers and all of that. So I think that a lot needs to be done in that sector to make sure that yes, we do not have wastage, we do not also have people losing and falling out of businesses as well. Yeah, another thing that we need to look at very quickly before we go on a break and bring in our guests for this morning. Cardinal Onyenaikon is back in the call for live coverage of election tribunal. I know that today that case is going to be handled at the election petition tribunal now. So we are going to see the outcome of it. Will the court actually accept that we have live coverage so Nigerians are following on the proceedings, as it comes? But again, I know that there's been a lot of conversations around the fact that, oh, let's not do live proceedings, let's not do live coverage of the the tribunal, to make sure that to save the lives of the Georges. But when we say that, to save the life of the judges, we all know these judges. We know the people that are handling the cases. Even if we don't know all the judges, because it's always a very full court, we know at least the lead counsels of each of the political parties, and and all of that. So they are not like hidden. The faces are not hidden. So what exactly are we hiding from Nigerians? But again, I know that some people have also, they have their reasons and their opinions when it comes to issues like this. But we leave it to the courts to decide today, actually, if they are going to go on a live coverage or not go on a live coverage.
Well, that's something we look out for. It's just more like Nigerians want to be on the safe side. We don't want conversations of the tribunal was not free and fair after
Exactly.
it's all done. So it's more like Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, and Peter Obi of Labour Party are saying, let the process be done in full glare of all
Of
Nigerians
everybody.
so that everyone can see the verdict. It's not going to twist the hands of the tribunal, but it will also act as a watchdog for them not to, be funny in the proceedings. But there's been more quarters saying that that is not such a good call to make. So let's see what the court says by the end of business day today.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, that's the much we can take. We'll just go on a short breather now. And when we come back, of course, we'll be coming back with our guests. So much is happening in the Labour Party. As of Friday, there was a cancellation by the Federal High Court in Kano State. The cancellation of the elections of Governor-elect of Abia State, Alex Oti, and all members of the Labour Party in Abia State and also in Kano State as well. Now, that's giving room for a lot of concerns as we speak. Just about 7 days to inauguration, and we're finding this happen in the Labour Party. This and much more will be our focus conversation when we do come back. But remember that you can be a part of our conversations by heading straight to our social media on Facebook, on YouTube, and of course on Instagram as well, and drop a comment. We'll be right back shortly. To stay with us.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still Rise and Shine, and we're coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. We've had several conversations already, and one way you can catch up on all that is to follow us across all social media platforms, all of which you can find at spectrumtv.ng. A lot of things are happening in Nigeria. The elections have come and gone, but court rulings are changing the course of things for some persons. Just before we went on the weekend, we heard of the court ruling setting aside elections for Labour Party members in Abia State and Kano. Of course, remember that Alex Oti won the gubernatorial elections in Abia State. What does this mean for the Labour Party family in the country at this time? This is a conversation and different other things that we'll be looking into this morning. To have this conversation with us this morning is legal luminary and journalist, and himself the coordinator of Akwa Ibom Human Rights Commission, Barrister Clifford Thomas. Good to have you on the show this morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Oyai, and good morning, Janice.
Good morning, Barrister.
It's a rare privilege for me to come back on set to actually speak here again. Good morning, viewers. Let's latch on our seatbelt and do the best. Get set for the best.
Yeah, definitely get setting for the best. Just like I tried to, put a little bit of perspective to our focus conversation this morning. We have just 7 days to inauguration across board, except, going further, from the president-elect, we also have governors that will also be sworn in on May 29. And we're having court orders, try to stifle that process for all members of Labour Party in Abia State as we speak, and also in Kano State. What do you make out of this at this point? Now, the reason they are given is that a particular register was not, submitted during the window at which it was supposed to be submitted. Is that enough to say that, look, there should be no inauguration, or the election of these members of that political party should be cancelled?
Well, the structure in the country that has to do with the judiciary is that it is there to interpret whatever laws, as it were, or to give vent or definition to some hazy things that happen within the polity. So it will always be a give and take thing. Rules or rulings will be given, or judgments will be given that will be upstaged by a higher court, and nobody keeps quiet to look at the judgment that is given against him. That of Labour Party, it's rather very sad and unfortunate. Even the PDP people said no. They were not even comfortable. I read from a source that the PDP people are even saying no, Labour Party won, and whatever irregularities, some irregularities are not so bad as to lead to the cancellation of the entire process. That process costs so much in terms of finance, in terms of human capital, in terms of emotions, sentiments, and all of that. For you to just come up in one fell swoop to say you are cancelling it. In Abia, Labour Party won. In Kano, it was the is it NNPP?
Yes.
Yes.
So it will look like you are trying to stifle a group that did its best to wrest power off the major players. So, but I think that Labour Party will be in court and NNPP will be in court. And the court is always there to grant justice. So if there was an irregularity that did not affect the entire purport of the election, it will be the upper court.
But wouldn't that have been in the place of INEC to say that you did not, we gave you a stipulated time to submit a register and you did not submit it? Wouldn't that have been under the purview of INEC to determine, and not the court?
No, the court has jurisdiction where rules are set and you're supposed to follow the rules. And through a third-party interference, the rules were violated. The court has a right to say, look, you were to have submitted ABC in the checklist, but you did not submit the entire ABC, whereas you had submitted ABC on time. to the body responsible for the conduct of election or supervision of your primaries, but they did not on their own, out of whatever reason, submit when they were supposed to submit, it wouldn't be your fault, but you are held liable and culpable because you would have been more diligent to also ensure and follow up with that organization to ensure that the group actually submitted it for you. But there's a leeway, there's an opening for reprieve to be gotten.
I think another conversation that a lot of Nigerians are holding at this moment is whether the court is asking that, there should not be an inauguration, and what would happen to the likes of OT and the person that won in NMPP in Kano. What will be their fate, come May 29? We'll just take a very quick a tweet from a lawyer in Ibegefion and see what he says, and then we'll let you react to that as well.
Okay, this is the tweet from Inibere Fiang, and it says, since the tenure of the incumbent will automatically lapse on the 29th of May, Abia State must have a new governor. A governor-elect has emerged in the person of Alex Oti. The Kano judgment is not executory in this context and cannot be relied upon to truncate Oti's inauguration, because this also says, of course, that's all for Inibege's tweets.
Reaction.
Yeah, his reaction.
Another one here. It says, as it stands,
Okay.
the judgment delivered by, of course, Honorable Justice Yunusa cannot stop the swearing in of Alex Oti. The judge did not restrain Abia Chief Judge from swearing him in. Conversely, the judge declined the prayer that sought to order INEC to declare the first runner-up winner. So it's over to you now, Barrister Clifford.
Well, every order or judgment of the court must be obeyed. Every order or judgment of the court must be obeyed. But we must, in stricto sensu, position the judgment. What were the prayers? What did the court grant? If the court had granted that the Abia State Chief Judge is restrained from swearing in Oti as governor, then it won't be able to swear him in. But if that prayer was not prayed for or granted, the court is not a Father Christmas to grant you what you have not asked for. So the court only grants on successful argument what you ask for. But where the court does not grant it, you cannot manufacture it from anywhere. I agree with Nibe partially, but I want to let him know and let others know, Nigerians know, that every judgment or order of the court must be obeyed. But again, another leeway to it is immediately that judgment was given to file a notice of appeal and file a stay of execution. And that is as good as not having had the judgment. So Governor Alex Oti will be sworn in. His legal team knows what I am saying. There are ways to actually circumvent the process legally, without necessarily truncating the purport of the judiciary. You are also using that same judiciary to push for something. So they file a notice of appeal in Kano and file a stay of execution also in Kano, hoping to file same in the Court of Appeal, possibly in Abuja. But they can also go to court and make their prayers. Beyond those two courts, they can make their prayers elsewhere. So when a high court, whether federal or state, gives judgment, and another high court of coordinate jurisdiction gives judgment to counter it, the only thing left is that you will state the case at the Court of Appeal. And while that process is on, the swearing in takes place. So I see Alex Oti sworn in as governor of Abia State. And I see the NNPP governorship candidate in Kano sworn in also as a governor of Kano State.
Well, we'll continue on the proceedings.
Yes.
definitely.
While we even go beyond just Alex Oti for the gubernatorial seat in Abia State, that particular judgment also covers for Labour Party flag bearers in like different other positions. So because we this just concluded round of election, we saw Labour Party foist a lot of members into the House of Reps, into the Senate, as it were. This, the same interpretation that you've given now for Alex Oti is it
The same principle applies to all of them. That one principle applies to all of them. So I see all of them. They'll be sworn. Those to the House of Assembly, National Assembly, will be sworn in on the 2nd of June, and those who have gone to the governor will be sworn in on May 29. 7 more days. Within these 7 days. In fact, let me say within these 5 days left, so much will happen.
Okay, I know that. Another angle that some Nigerians are taking the interpretation of the court proceedings as against Alex Oti and all members of Labour Party in Abia State, and of course the NNPP candidates, is that the swiftness and the hastiness in which the court decided the case of Alex Oti. Does that mean that the judiciary can actually stand up to its duty? But when we link it up with the Presidential Election Tribunal, there seems to be some kind of drag.
We have 180 days for you to commence and conclude all election petitions. And that of the presidential elections were submitted, I think, in early March. And between early March and sometime on the 12th of May, they were taking time to study, to read. But I still feel that it was too long a time, because you do adjournment. And now Atiku is praying and asking the court, grant media permission to televise this in live. And APC people are saying, no, we don't want the media to televise. The question is why? But that to me is another distraction, because the time that the court would have used in looking at the substantive matter, the court is using it to look at ephemeral matters. And I think that we are trying to buy time, waste time, drag.
And Peter Obi is on one corner saying that he needs 7 weeks to bring his
all of his witnesses.
So is that not also part of the wasting of time?
No, he will bring the ones he has to start with first. So if it doesn't mean, to my mind, that Peter Obi is saying, give us up to the 7th week for us to bring witnesses. But the witnesses that are available, they will start with them, with those witnesses. The ones that are not available, they are still doing everything possible to get them. That is how the court works. You must try to bring your witnesses. Where you don't bring your witnesses, and that witness deposed to a witness statement on oath or an affidavit, that means the witness statement of oath will be discountenanced.
Okay, I think something I'd like for us to also look at in the middle of all of this is what the impact of judgments like this will mean on the polity of the country, especially because we have experienced a shift with regards to how the politics and the democracy of Nigeria is being played, especially as a result of the last concluded election. With judgments like this, it feels like it is playing on the desire of the people, because part of the conversation with this judgment is that it can go wrong in any way. Let's not forget the sentiments that surrounded the announcement of Alex Oti as the winner of the gubernatorial elections in Abia State. So weighing this with security and the desire of the people, where do you think these kinds of judgments places Nigeria and Nigerians in the face of real-time democracy?
We mustn't look at the judgment in isolation of our past experiences. The misadventure of the military into Nigeria's polity actually denied us the privilege of making mistakes and correcting those mistakes. Now we are beginning to make those mistakes we would have done several years ago and correcting them. The judiciary must advise itself. The judges must advise themselves. And I think the Chief Judge of Nigeria, Justice of Nigeria, should be able to bring out a practice direction which advises judicial officers not to give judgments that are seen to be very seen to be very sentimental. Judgments are in stricto sensu law abiding. They follow the law, the rule of law. Now, there are some judgments you are not required to give. When you notice that you are on a coordinate pedestal, I mean, I'm a high court, you are a high court, you are a high court, and whatever judgment I give, you have the authority to also give a counter judgment, which is judicial rascality. Because if you are not satisfied with my judgment, go upstairs, go to the Court of Appeal, go to the court that has appellate jurisdiction from my court, and then argue your case out. But if you feel, we have had situations in this country where 3 different courts give 3 different opinions on one matter with the same parties. Judicial rascality. Just like we have abuse of court processes by lawyers, the court processes may also be further abused by judges. But we are saying let the CJN give practice direction to help us and say, please, in matters of this nature, don't entertain them. Recuse yourself. Say you don't have jurisdiction. Call on the CJN or call on the court that has jurisdiction, appellate jurisdiction on it. Let us state the case. Where I give a decision, you also have coordinate jurisdiction with my court. You give a conflicting jurisdiction, a conflicting decision against my own. What the parties could do is to state the case, take the case to the Court of Appeal, and then seek the opinion of the Court of Appeal as to who is correct, who is right. So in this instance, I think we're making the mistakes we would have done 40 years ago.
And you think that's okay at this time?
No, some judgments could actually unsettle the socio-cultural researchers. Unfortunately, the monies are not there for them to pay their researchers. You pay researchers, you do peer review. You meet fellow judges to review this case. When things like this happen, what do we do? When instances of this nature occur, what do we do? They do peer review. You may not know, but they appear to attack the fabric of the culture of the people and the sentiments which was raised and was settled, had been settled.
With election cases, it has given Nigerians a lot of belief that, you know, the judiciary is more like influenced by some political powers and political actors. And
No, I wouldn't think so. Everybody is influenced. Even this television station is influenced because they hear stories. They listen to the public. They are molded. In fact, they listen to shapers of public opinion and they ask questions. And then they look at their books. They look at the facts before them. If this happens, it will put fire in the society. There will be crisis, there will be problem. Advise ourselves generally not to encourage the judiciary to appear influenced. But everybody is influenced, whether you like it or not. No, I am saying I want to subscribe to the fact that the judiciary is not influenced by politicians or money. Some you don't know. Some are very, even the judiciary checks itself to safeguard against undue influence.
I think we just lay that to rest now and look at a very important and interesting conversation here on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Is also an aspirant for the 10th president of the Senate is saying, don't judge me based on performance as minister. And it takes me back to, you know, the which he said he was going to mention names at some point, but we never saw those names come forth. And here he is now saying, don't judge me based on performances as minister. Obviously, we know that as minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Well, everything, anytime, a place where virtually everybody from every part of the country, they fit from. The NDDC is a golden pot where people dip their hands and necessary authority over the NDDC.
Exactly.
And then he came up with a very unpopular policy. Unpopular decision of who becomes Senate president. It was when he declared the audit was making 1 billion naira, was it every month, from the NDDC for doing virtually nothing. And a couple of persons who had collected contracts on actually making people suffer consequences for their action. So a lot of contractors who done very shoddy jobs had to go back and do proper jobs. So they are not happy. I don't expect them to be happy with Godswill Akpabio. And I'm very sure that other aspirants are taking undue advantage of this. So again, for Akpabio to
years and commissioner for 6 years and a governor for exactly
all his record, none will be exempted. All his record in public office. We're not going to even judge him on the basis of being a lawyer, because we're talking about a public office, and you had been involved in public office. How did you perform? 6 years of the Niger Delta. We'll use all those records. You should not tell us what to use to be.
But there's something you said, and I want to take you on that. Why is he even afraid, that people are judging him based on his performance as the minister of Niger Delta?
His other records. That's what I think, to my mind, as a person. Because if you isolate his day National Assembly, then they might want to use those persons as I'm very happy that you are using the whole of this record. But beyond that, include this. And I want to think to the common people, how did he fare? He did well.
Just an aside, I'm still leaning on Godswill Akpabio as Minister of the See some of the monies voted and what they were voted for. Over how many billion naira for the aids of directors at the NDDC in billions. You insinuated it's more like a conduit pipe to just with
squandering the allocations. We squander what comes to the NDDC. But if you do it, most agencies in Nigeria, their corruption quotient is ingredients. But that of entertainment, including monies you use to maintain your mistresses, put them in hotels, feed them, buy cars for them, send them on trips and all of that. You notice that the less than 25%. It's less than 25%. And because of this, the wastages have increased the poverty. That's why the youth have gone ahead to break the pipelines, remove crude manner, which actually also spoils or destroys the environment, destroys the water we drink, destroys the air. Those who actually operate the NDDC, that all these things happen. But again, that is what is happening. Pay 200 million naira, 500 million naira as bribe before.
I need to ask questions like, where does the principle of the federal character principle, where does it lie in terms of
that patronage for political offices? In 1886, the Berlin Conference partitioned groups. That's one. Number two, to the highest bidder, a city boy. And he called our governor the boy, that boy. The other must become men, and there's room for improvement. That's my interpretation of all these boys' philosophy. Now, who has merit will be made to compromise in one or two styles, because you must have a bad dossier to be appointed. So if you don't do what we want you to do, we tell the whole world. So it's a principle of black has been thrown off board.
Merit is more like just non-existent. Like you said, the people that have just a little bit of merit, they look for, some form of stain. But just before we wrap up this conversation this morning, something really big is took the task, the bull by the horn, and he has built one for us. I see you share 2,000 barrels per day of crude product.
And employing over 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Where will the crude oil come from?
He says it's going to be...
from where?
The big question.
In a country like the US or in countries in Europe, a man who is richer and stronger than the country, they divide. This antitrust now. They divide. Look at what happened to Microsoft. They had to split it. You can't monopolize salt, monopolize sugar, monopolize flour, monopolize everything, including the oil. What happened to the boys who were doing fine their method and tell them, okay, group together, we give you modular refinery license. Must we give everything to Aliko Dangote? And I'm saying, I think Ivory Coast was sold at about 1.8 from what we heard, and was sold here at 5,000 naira. Are you not rather promoting more corruption and putting more monies in the hands of only one man against every other person? Are you telling me that we don't have the
bringing up modular refineries has been like a major conversation for the longest of time, but government does not want to build modular refineries. Even the 1.5, I think, $1 billion that was also be monopolizing these things. And if Aliko Dangote comes up as a private individual to break that monopoly, you don't think it is good enough?
You have destroyed how many refineries do we have? 4 major refineries
that are not working.
No, 4 major refineries in this country, which are not working. I agree with you, but they are spending trillions of naira every year on them.
To revamp?
No, not to revamp. They are not even doing them without publicity, without announcement. They just employ them from the backyard. And how much are they paid? Some are paid more than 5 million naira. And what are the packs they go home with? The packs they go home with alone for 1 year is more than 15 years salary that Aliko Dangote. Yes, he did a good job. He's a private businessman. The purpose of every business is to make profit, not to offer service.
Exactly.
Not to offer welfare. The service a businessman offers you is to his advantage to make profit. But
I want to build refineries that has been like the issue, or like Nigerians asking
employ
for
more than 300,000 people, upstream and downstream.
So I think something that Barrister Clifford is calling our attention to, like you asked the question earlier, is this going to make...
They claim, they've removed a lot of oil subsidy over time, this administration.
Yes.
And I don't know whether they are deceiving us or how the thing comes up again. And they say they want to remove oil subsidy. They want to remove subsidy. Aliko Dangote will not subsidize. He will make his full profit, but products will be available. And that is the same.
And
it is sabotage. It is sabotage not to make products available for Nigerians to suffer, for us to now see the need why only one person must have a functional refinery and put all of us as slaves.
All right, thank you very much.
This,
yes,
but,
definitely.
An alarm here is that this refinery is not a service option. It is more of a profiteering venture.
Did they not give to those who were ready to refine oil here? And do you know that stealing bunkering is a very serious business?
All right, thank you so much. I think our time is up at this moment, but I want to say a very big thank you so much we can take on the show this morning. We'll definitely see you again tomorrow, but Isaac and Blyden Ukem will be up next for Sports Central at this moment.
My name is Uya Anekan, and this is where we drop